Everybody, Mike Beer here with graded stakes action on Saturday afternoon at Gulfstream Park. Race number 10 down at Gulfstream is going to be the Grade 3 Mr. Prospector Stakes, 7 furlongs, older sprinters for a $100,000 purse. Let's take a look at the field of 7 right now. I think a pretty well-matched field. Your money line favorite, number 5, Dennis's Moment, at 2-1 on the line. I suppose he's the horse to beat. Many people will remember Dennis's Moment from a couple years ago when it looked like, you know, he was perhaps one of the best members of his generation. Big blowout maiden win by almost 20 lengths at Ellis Park with a 97 buyer. Came back and won the Grade 3 Iroquois in his next start. Things have not gone well for Dennis's Moment since then. He bombed as the favorite at the Breeders' Cup that year. Only managed 2 starts as a 3-year-old. Didn't run well in either of those races. He's come back this year. His last 3 starts, they concentrated on sprint races with him. I guess he's run okay, certainly a little bit better than he had been doing previously. His most recent win is a win over this, his most recent race is a win over this 7 furlong distance at Keeneland as the favorite. He is 2-1 on the morning line here. I guess he's the horse to beat. Number 2, or number 4 rather, right to his inside is Endorsed. He's 5-2 on the line, your second choice. Endorsed has plenty of efforts that are going to make him really tough in here. He's a very consistent horse. The 7 furlong distance seems like it's going to be okay for him, even though he's 0 for 3 going 7 furlongs so far in his career. The problem with Endorsed is he just doesn't win very often. He's on a very long losing streak heading into this race. So we'll see what kind of trip he can work out, what kind of price he is, and then we'll see if he can finally get the job done in this race. It won't be surprising if he does. The other horse who will take some money in here, number 2, Wind of Change. He's the speed. He's 3-1 on the morning line. And, when we're discussing Wind of Change, you want to talk about the pace of the race. So let's throw the Timeform US pace projector up there right now. Wind of Change. Timeform US thinks he's fastest early. They have him out there on a clear early lead at the pace call. That kind of trip's going to make him really tough in this race. He's run several fast races in his career. He's really tough when he's able to get to the early lead. He also really likes a wet track. I suppose that's something that you want to, sort of keep in mind with this horse. But he's fine over fast dirt. So he's run several fast races on fast dirt. So I'm not going to worry too much about the surface. To me, it's all a question of, whether or not Wind of Change can get himself out to the early lead in here without having to work too hard. Because if he does that, he's going to be really tough to beat in here, I think. Number 1, we'll start with down on the rail. Number 1, Flapjack. He's not impossible in here. I think there's a real question as to what his best surface is. This is a horse who's run well over all 3 surfaces in his career. He's probably gonna have to take a step forward to beat this field, and that would be the main question for me. Since that is the case, the 6-1 morning line that they have met is way too short. I think he can drift, though. He's the kind of horse I would want to use somewhere at a big price because I'm a little bit of a fan of his. I think he's run some really good races and some races that are even perhaps better than they look on paper. The problem with really getting behind him is his race 2 starts back at Keeneland when he was in against Dennis's Moment. And when you go back and watch the replay of that, and we're going to look at the replay a little bit later, he just didn't have any excuse in there. He got a great trip in that race. He was right there with every chance in the stretch, and he was no match while settling for third. It wasn't a terrible performance, but it certainly wasn't one that would make you want to bet him back in here. He's going to put blinkers on. I hope Julian Leparoux takes him back and tries to make one run with him here because I think that could really work for this horse. It's worth pointing out that he's cross-entered into an allowance race on Friday at Gulfstream, so maybe he'll even run there. It's interesting when you go and look at that allowance race he's entered in. It might even be a tougher race than this one, so don't be surprised if Flapjack turns up here, and if he does and he's a price, I'm going to use him. The 2 is Wind of Change. He's a horse who I think is supposed to be really tough in here. We're going to take a look. This is a horse who's already won one running of the Mr. Prospector so far this year. That back at the end of May at Monmouth over a sloppy track. Here's the replay of that race right now. This horse ran well in there. He had speed, went right to the lead in that race, took some pressure around the turn. You can see it there in the stretch, putting his challengers away, and he's going to kick clear at the end. 98 buyer speed figure. He ran really well in that race. He's 0 for 3 since then, but they ran him in the tail of the cat where he couldn't make the lead over Wonder Where Craig Is at Saratoga off the layoff. They ran him around 2 turns at Charlestown in his next race. In his most recent start, we actually didn't run poorly at all, was going 5.5 on synthetic. And they had to use him a bit to make the lead in that race, and he got run down by a horse, King of Dreams, who would come back to win a stakes race in his next start with a 90 buyer speed figure. So this horse his form is actually held up very well since that Mr. Prospector we just watched. The 7 furlongs, is it a question for him? I don't think it is. They've tried him 3 times over this distance since he's arrived in North America. 2 of them are in those Charlestown races, the Russell Road, where he finished second both times. Those, again, they're 2-turn races. a lot different than this one. The only other 7-furlong race for him was in this Mr. Prospector last year. And I thought he finished a good fourth. He went a really fast pace in that race on the early lead. Got run down late to finish fourth at a big price, but that was a good field. Sleepy Eyes Todd won it. The runner-up Frenzy Fire, a multiple Grade 1 winner. The third place finisher Mind Control, a multiple Grade 1 winner. This, to me, feels like this year's edition of the Mr. Prospector is not nearly as tough, and I think Wind of Change is a major player in here. Number 3 is Poppy's Pride. Listen, he won 4 races in a row as a 2-year-old. It seemed like he was sort of incrementally getting better, used his speed to win all of those races, just got clear on the lead and sort of never got challenged through the stretch. They tried him in one tougher race early on last winter down here in the Grade 3 Swale. He was no match that day, finished far behind, and he got a layoff after that. We'll see if he can work his way back. I thought his return to the races was pretty good in September. Last time they ran him against Doc Amster, who's also back in here. He did not run well in his most recent race. Now, he got away last from the gate that day. He was sort of in behind horses up the backstretch, needing room, and he just sort of couldn't improve his position at all. And then when he did finally get clear, he just didn't run at all. He was no good. He did have some excuses last time. It wasn't a good performance. We'll see if he can rebound. He's going to be a big price in here. Endorsed, we've already touched on, looking for his first win since May 2nd of 2020 at Oaklawn Park. He ran great that day, winning an allowance race. And his form, again, it's actually held up very, very well. He's got plenty of races that are going to make him competitive in here. I don't mind the 7-furlong distance for him. The question surrounding Endorsed, considering it's been so long since he's won a race, the questions are, what kind of price can you get on him in here, and what kind of price do you want to take? Personally, I'm a little tired of him, and I don't want a short price on him, but he can win. Dennis's Moment, 2-1 morning line. I guess he's the horse to beat, even though he's never really panned out. I didn't love. He ran fine in his return off the layoff in August at Alice. I didn't love that performance from him. I didn't think he had any real excuse that day, unless you're going to say that the layoff itself, was an excuse for him and he needed that race back. He ran fine. His next start, where they tried a stakes race with him, he did not run well. Endorsed finished well ahead of him. This horse did rush up the inside to contest the pace that day, but he was contesting the pace with the horse that wound up winning the race, Just Might. Just Might hung around. Dennis's Moment did not, and he finished far behind. I didn't like that performance. Here's his most recent race at Keeneland, going 7 furlongs. Sat an absolute perfect trip in this race, right in behind the leaders. The pace wasn't fast. Corey Lannery had always looked like he had a lot of horse. Took him out into the clear on the stretch, and this horse finishes very gamely to drive the race down at the end. 92 Beyer speed figure. It was a good performance. I guess if he runs that race back, is he going to win here? I don't think he is. But maybe he'll take another step forward. He does have good tactical speed. There are things to like about Dennis's Moment. I don't know how short a price I would want to take on him, and it feels like he's going to get bet in here. Doc Amster, coming off of is number 6. He's coming off of a career best performance last time, winning with a 91 Beyer speed figure. He managed to get to the lead that day. He was clear in the stretch, and then he got very tired at the end, noticeably shortened his stride down to the wire, and he just barely held on. It was a good performance. He has other speed to deal with in here. He's got a couple of other fast races on the go back as well. So there are things to like about him. I wonder if the 7 furlongs with other speed in the race is really going to work out for this horse. But listen, his last race was good, and it'll probably be a price. Officiating is the 7. I tried to talk myself into officiating. I was a fan of his early on last year. I think it's fair to say he never really panned out. His fastest races anyway have come on turf so far, but I don't really like him that much as a turf horse. His race 3 starts back where he earned the Beyer top of 83, missing by a neck. He didn't have any excuse in there. He got a great trip and probably should have won that race. Here's his most recent dirt start, September 5th. It's the Bears Den Stakes. It's rained off the turf going the 7 furlong distance. He set a great trip right in behind in this race. You see him get out to the clear to the stretch. The horse right to his outside is Papa 2. It's a pretty nice horse. Papa 2, a stakes-winning sprinter. Officiating is going to outkick Papa 2 to the wire and win clear with a career-best 79 dirt Beyer. Obviously, just a repeat of that effort's not going to get him much in here. But Papa 2, he did beat a good horse. Papa 2 is a nice horse, a stakes winner again. He did return to win his start right after that with a 93 Beyer speed figure. So I guess that was a quality win for officiating. I don't care about his last race on synthetic too much. The question is, can he improve enough, and will he be a big enough price to use? I've been enough of a fan of his that I actually spent a lot of time trying to talk myself into officiating in here, trying to talk myself into betting him. Ultimately, I just couldn't get there. I just don't think he's good enough to beat this field. Not that it's the greatest Mr. Prospector in the world. I'll try to use him, but I couldn't put him on top in here. We can put the picks up there now. I went with Wind of Change, the 2 on top in this race. I went 2, 5, 4, and 7. I'm just hoping Wind of Change gets to the lead and can wire this field. I'm not worried about the 7 furlongs for him. And I think his best race, if he can run it here, I think it makes him really tough. So I'm going to try Wind of Change in this race. Hope that he's not the favorite, and then perhaps everyone goes overboard on Dennis's Moment and endorsed. And I'll try Wind of Change in the Grade 3 Mr. Prospector. It's race number 10 at Gulfstream on Saturday. Good luck.